Hail, hail, Lion of Judah, let the lion roar. Hail, hail, Lion of Judah, let the lion roar. Hail, hail, Lion of Judah, let the lion roar. Hail, hail, Lion of Judah, let the lion roar. It roars. It roars. Pride of Zion, prophet spoke, and our Messiah, flesh and bone. You alone are worthy to open up the scroll. And like a lamb you suffered, but the lion has arose. Hail, hail, Lion of Judah, let the lion roar. And hail, hail, Lion of Judah, let the lion roar. Hail, hail, Lion of Judah, let the lion roar. And hail, hail, Lion of Judah, let the lion roar. It Let the lion roar. Let's sing, prepare the way. Prepare the way of the Lord. Prepare the way. Prepare the way of the Lord. Prepare the way. Prepare the way of the Lord. Prepare the way. Prepare the way of the Lord. Oh valley, be raised up. Oh mountain, be made low. Oh valley, be raised up. And oh mountain, be made low. And oh valley, be raised up. And oh mountain, be made low. And oh valley, be raised up. And oh mountain, be made low. And Lion of Judah, let the lion roar. And hail, hail, Lion of Judah, let the lion roar. Hail, hail, Lion of Judah, let the lion roar. And hail, hail, Lion of Judah, let the lion roar. And hail, hail, Lion of Judah, let the lion roar. And hail, hail, Lion of Judah, let the lion roar. Oh valley, be raised up. Oh mountain, be made low. Oh valley, be raised up. Oh mountain, be made low. No valley, be raised up. No mountain, be made low. Oh valley, be raised up. Oh mountain, be made low. Oh valley, be raised up. Oh mountain, be made low. Oh valley, be raised up. Oh mountain, be made low. And I searched the world, and I couldn't find but it couldn't fill me. A man's empty praise, treasures that fade, are never enough. And then you came along and put me back together, and every desire
have you here with us. It's great to have Nick and Lexi here with us, our friends. Moved down to Florida. They're here visiting, and Nick is playing drums for us again. So it's great to have you both here with us. But as we're singing that song is called Graves in the Gardens. And what it's all about is how God can take something that appears hopeless, something that appears dead, right? And he can make it into something beautiful, something alive. And I know there's been times in my life, and I'm sure there's been times in your life where you've looked around and been like, oh, this is hopeless. Like this, there's nothing that can be done about this. That's how I felt about my grades in high school, right? This is hopeless. I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. And we've all had those situations where it's like, this is dead. And when something appears completely dead, like there's nothing there that can be done about it, that's when God says, oh, just watch. Just watch. When you have those situations in your life and you don't know where to go, sometimes we don't ever like hitting rock bottom. But my prayer is, God, if I need to hit rock bottom in order to hear what you have to say, then may I hit rock bottom. Like if that's what it takes for me to wake up, if that's what it takes for me to pay attention to what you're doing, if that's what it takes for my life to turn around, then God, bring on rock bottom. I'm ready. And we should all be praying that same prayer in our lives. Whatever it takes, I'm ready. So hopefully you don't have to hit rock bottom. Hopefully that we don't need our lives to completely fall apart in order to turn back to him. But if that's what it takes, then that's what it takes. And I'm going to get there sooner rather than later. Even when it all seems hopeless, it's not. It never is. When Jesus is involved, amen? Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, thank you that even in the most dire situations, even in the worst situations, even when we look at something and we think there is no way out of this, you work. You're active. You're involved. You care. And above all, you provide. Thank you, God, that the weight of the world isn't on my shoulders. You are strong enough. You are big enough to take care of everything that goes on here. I just pray that we turn to you. I pray for the person right now who's been stubborn, who's been going down the wrong path, who knows, you know what, this probably isn't the best way to go, but this is the way I'm going to go. And I want to learn the hard way. God, I pray for that person right now that they can get to a place where they turn to you and they say, God, I'm tired of doing things my way. Take over. Help us, Father. Bless our time this morning. Have your way in our midst. I pray this in the name of Jesus. And everybody said, you may be seated. Well, welcome. Good to see you. If this is your first time here, my name is Pastor Shane, and we want to thank you for spending some time with us. In the back by our coffee table, we have some Connect cards that we would invite you to fill out and drop off at our coffee table, and we want to give you a little gift. Thank you for spending some time with us and finding us. Hopefully, you enjoy yourself this morning. But today, we're kicking off a brand new series that's called Deadly Sins. And so every October we do this, and I've been talking about this the last few weeks, so if you've been here, then you've heard me talk about this. But we partner with 2 other churches for this series. So in the video you just saw, you saw my brother up there who's a pastor at Impact Church, which is in Sykesville. And then our other friend, Brian, who's a pastor at New Beginnings Church, which is out in Mount Airy. And we're all friends and we're close. And every October, we do a series where we preach at each other's churches and we partner together. And we do this for a few reasons. One, we do this so that you can hear from a different voice besides my own or just the pastors on our staff who are also phenomenal pastors. But sometimes it's good to hear from a few different voices. And then 2, it's to help us realize that the church is bigger than City on a Hill. The church is bigger than just our community. Now, our community is important, and it's important to think about our home and to invest in our community. But church is bigger than us. And so we want to partner with other churches. Sometimes churches can kind of feel like they're competing with one another, and we don't ever want that to be the case. We're all on the same team, and we're all trying to win people over for Jesus and help people know Jesus more and know Jesus better. So we partner with these couple other churches to remind us of that, and it's a fun time. It's a good time that we get to do. So next week, my brother is going to be preaching, so sorry about that. And then the week after that, Brian is going to be preaching, and then I'll be back preaching the last week of the month. And I'm going to be preaching at their churches over the next couple of weeks. So, but we're kicking off this new series that's called The Deadly Sins. And now this series, it's not necessarily focusing on the 7 deadly sins, which you have heard of before. But there are things in this world that we would look at, and then we would say, oh yeah, that's obviously wrong, right? And a lot of the 7 deadly sins kind of fit into that. But we would look at a lot of things and we would say, oh, yeah, murder is wrong. Hopefully you agree with that. And hopefully you would say, yeah, that's obvious. We shouldn't do that. We shouldn't steal. That's obvious, right? So there's certain things where we're like, yeah, we could mostly agree that this is not the right thing to do and would be a sin in our lives. You know, abuse, stealing, all those sort of things. The big ones, the obvious ones. Then there are things in our lives that we may publicly agree is not healthy for us or not good, or we may even publicly say that this is a sin or this is wrong, but we still kind of do it anyways, right? Like there are some things where we publicly would stand up and if you were in my shoes right now, you would say, oh, this is wrong. Absolutely, this is wrong. But then we still just kind of do it because it's not that wrong, right? Like it's not that big of a deal. There's worse things. So we like to do that. We like to look at sin and we like to rank them. Well, at least I'm not as bad as this person over here. Look at all the terrible things that they do. I mean, I just do this a little bit, right? Yeah, I know it's not right. I know it's not healthy, but it's not that big of a deal, right? I'm not the issue that I'm involved in. I'm not committing that big of a problem or that big of a wrong thing. And we look at these sins, and the problem is they end up being silent killers. Because these things that we may cling publicly are wrong, but privately are still willing to commit, these things, they kind of eat at us. And they can kind of pick away at us. And slowly over time, and often we don't realize it, but they're affecting us in a negative way. Have you ever gotten to a place in your life where you said, how did I end up here? Like I didn't intentionally become this person, but now I have this addiction, or now I have this problem, or now I've created relationships that are not healthy. Why? How? I didn't want this to be the case, but here we are. And a lot of times, it's because of these things that we're going to talk about in this series. Things that affect us negatively that we don't think are that big of a deal, but behind the scenes, they're really kind of impacting us in a negative way. So here are the things we're going to talk about, 4 things we're going to talk about today, and they all start with G, okay? We're going to talk about greed. We're going to talk about grudges. We're going to talk about gossip. And then today, we're going to talk about gluttony, which is like I know you're probably like, what in the world? Why are we going to do this? So we're going to dive in this because gluttony is a topic that, one, I've never preached on before. And obviously, gluttony is referring to an overindulgence of food. But it isn't just specific to food. You know, it isn't only about eating, but it obviously includes eating. So let me start with this. Do you guys remember Old Country Buffet? Oh, that was my jam on Sunday afternoons after church when I was a kid. I remember, like, my family would go, and, we'd go to church, and then afterwards, my parents would be like, well, where should we go to lunch? And my vote was always Old Country Buffet. Are they even still around? There was one in Catonsville that's now gone. It's like a Korean barbecue place now. But I remember, like, man, Old Country Buffet. And I feel like, as a kid, buffets are just the best because you can get whatever you want, right? There's so many things that are all laid out. And I remember going to Old Country Buffet after church on Sundays and just, like, gorging myself on ice cream. Just, like, an absurd amount of ice cream over and over and over. I would, like, go and get an ice cream cone and eat it before I got back so my parents didn't know I had that much ice cream. And then I would go and be like, oh, I'm going to go get ice cream now and get, just a ridiculous amount. And I loved going to Old Country Buffet. I realized that Old Country Buffet and most buffets now as an adult are it's not about quality, but it's all about quantity, right? So there's this place in Las Vegas, and it's called the Bacchanal Buffet. Has anybody ever been there before, the Bacchanal Buffet? It's in Caesar's Palace. You're like, I'm not admitting to it even if I had been there, right? It's in Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas, and this is the largest, most expansive buffet in the world. I mean, this thing is huge. So here's what this buffet has to offer. For $50 a person, they offer breakfast, they offer lunch, and they offer dinner. And for each meal, breakfast, there are 500 different entrees. For lunch, there's 500 different entrees. For dinner, there's 500 different entrees. So you literally could, it is the most expansive place. You can experience every nationality of food, everything from the mundane to the exotic. If you have a craving, it will be met at this place. I mean, it's huge, huge. They have signs there that says, you never have to leave. Yeah. So you could just pay $50, go there in the morning, and just stay there all day if you'd like to. I think that would not be the greatest day for you in the long run, but hey, that you could do that if you would like to, right? I mean, it is just a huge place. And when asked, why would Caesar's Palace need such an expansive and extravagant dining experience? Somebody asked that question. Why in the world would you need something this big and this extravagant? The food and wine manager there put it this way. She said this. This is a quote from her. We live in a world where, and a time when, people want what they want when they want it, how they want it, and at their disposal on demand. We are here to serve those desires and send them home satisfied. And boy, do they do a good job. Like, they know what they're doing. And they are, it's a crazy, crazy place. But we know that gluttony is a problem, but it's not simply just found at the world's largest buffet. See, it's an American thing. See, rather, gluttony is the American way. Anything that we like. See, I don't know if there's anything more American than going to Costco and buying an absurdly large thing. Because, hey, I'm saving money, right? If I spend this money, yeah, sure, it's a ridiculous amount of food. It's a ridiculous amount of whatever it is that you're buying, but for the price, right? And that's how we look at it. Here's a few things that Costco sells. You could buy a box of 850 gumballs from Costco, if you'd like. 850 gumballs. Now, I realize that you're going to say to me, well, it's a lot of restaurants going and buying stuff. Yeah, sure, that's fine. But you know somebody. You know somebody went and bought this for their home, okay? You could buy a 3-pound tub of pretzels from Costco. You could buy a 60-pound tub of honey. Why? Must be Yogi. That's a terrible joke, and I'm sorry that I said that. I'm better than that. Anyways, all right. You could buy a 4-gallon tub of mayonnaise, and if this is you, you can't be my friend, but you could buy a 4-gallon tub of mayonnaise or a 7-pound tub of Nutella. I mean, these are things that you can buy at Costco. And I know, right? The price is just it's too good to pass up. So here's the question, okay? First off, let's figure out what is gluttony. Because it isn't just food. That's all I've talked about so far, but it isn't just food. Here's what gluttony is. Gluttony is when too much of a good thing becomes a sin. Too much of a good thing. So there's a difference between sinful indulgence and then the sin of indulgence, right? Like sinful indulgence is, I know I shouldn't talk about this person, but I'm going to do it anyways. I know that I shouldn't steal from this place, but I'm going to do it anyways, right? That's a sinful indulgence. But the sin of indulgence is gluttony. It's overconsumption of something. And that something is good in and of itself. Nothing wrong with it. But if we partake too much and we overdo it, it becomes a problem. And this is specifically referring to things, like I said, that aren't necessarily bad. But the problem is we don't have self-control. The problem is we don't have moderation built into our lives. And this is obviously often applied to food. But food isn't bad. You have to eat. I have to eat. Food is important. We need food in our lives. But a lot of times we say, I'm sad, I need to eat. And we say, I'm happy, let's go eat. Say, I'm angry, I need to eat something, right? No matter what emotion we're feeling, a lot of times the solution is, well, let's go and eat something. Even when we're full, we're like, I'm bored, I'm going to eat something. Because what else am I going to do, right? But this can also be applied to rest, which is good. We need to rest. But if we rest too much, it's not good. This can also be applied to your relationships with your friends. This could be applied to social activities or social situations. This could be applied to entertainment. I mean, it could be applied to anything that is good, but too much of it can be a bad thing. See, when it comes to entertainment, we don't use the word gluttony. We use the word binge. That's what we use, right? How many times do you say, oh, I just binge watched that show? Oh, when Stranger Things came out, I did not move from my couch, and I just binged the whole season in one day because I couldn't wait. I had to watch it. See, and to me, that's really where it seems like it started, because Netflix, they release all their episodes at one time, right? You know this. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But when that started happening, I remember being like, oh, we don't have to wait a week for the next episode? I can just sit here with my 7-gallon jug of mayonnaise that I bought from Costco and watch this? This is amazing. There's nothing more American than this, right? I can just not have to move from my couch, and we binge watch a show. And here's the average day of TV watching in America. The average day for an American in America, the amount of hours to watch TV in one day is 5 hours. 5 hours. And now you may be sitting there saying, not me. Good for you. Good for you. But these statistics are real, okay? And you may say, not me. Well, it's somebody. And you may say, well, it must be somebody else around me. And it very well could be. But here, let me give you some more. Or you may say this, well, it's all those teenagers, isn't it? It's the teenagers' problem. They're the problem. They're the reason why that number's so high. And actually, it's not true. Now, screen time may be a little different, okay? But if we're talking about purely TV watching, whether it be Netflix, whatever, the people from ages 40 to 55 actually make up the largest group of TV and entertainment watchers consuming. Now, if you're in this age range, you may say, this isn't me, and I'm not here to judge you. I'm just giving you the information, okay? From ages 40 to 55 make up the largest group of TV and entertainment watchers, consuming 11 hours of TV each day. 11 hours. Now, I also understand a lot of times people may just have it on, and you're not actually sitting there for 11 hours. Why? Maybe you are, I don't know. But you may not be just sitting there watching TV for 11 hours. But a lot of times it's like when we walk in the house, boom, entertainment on. Because I can't bear to be in silence with my own thoughts. I got to have something on in the background. But this is an overconsumption. And this is something that most of us have an issue with. So what sort of impact does gluttony actually have on us in our lives? I want to talk about three things, three ways that gluttony really affects us. And you have something in your life that is your gluttonous indulgence, okay? It may not be anything that I mentioned so far, but you know what it is. It could be food, it could be entertainment, it could be hanging out with people and not being willing to take any time for yourself, it could be work, whatever it is. You know what that is in your life, and I want you to think about it right now. You don't have to tell anybody, but I want you to have it in your head, and I want you to think about this is the impact that our gluttony has on us when we go overboard. First thing is this. Gluttony causes us to sacrifice greater for lesser. This is what it does. In Genesis 25, verses 29 through 32, this is talking about when Jacob and Esau, if you know anything about the Old Testament in Genesis, Jacob and Esau, they're brothers, and Esau is out working in the fields, right? And he's hungry. He's a man, right? He's out. He's killing animals with his bare hands, and he's hunting, and he's doing all this stuff. And he comes back to the house, and he's really hungry, and his brother Jacob is there, who's making some stew, making some soup. And he comes home, and he's famished. So this is what happens. This is the interaction they had. Genesis 25, it's on the screen behind me. Once when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau came in from the open country, famished. He said to Jacob, "Quick, let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished." Jacob replied, "First, sell me your birthright." "Look, I am about to die," Esau said. "What good is the birthright to me?" Now, let's get something straight here, okay? Esau's not about to die. He's not about to die. But rather, he's just saying what we all say after church on a Sunday. I'm about to die. I have to get to Old Country Buffet. I've got to get there. Because if I don't, who knows what could happen, right? How many times do you talk to your kids? I'm starving. I am so hungry. I need something right now or I'm going to pass out, right? We've all been there. We've all said it. So he's not about to die. Now, we don't know what his calorie intake is for the day, this particular day. But it doesn't say he skipped breakfast. It doesn't say he skipped lunch. It doesn't say he hadn't eaten for weeks. It just says he was working during the day, and he came home, and he's hungry. He's famished. You know, maybe you've been there where you say, you know what, I ate some breakfast, but I skipped lunch, and now it's dinner time, and I need something right now, right? It's 5:30, you're just getting home from work, you're walking in, you are starving, you're ready to eat. That's where Esau is. And it makes sense. See, gluttony can even be applied to things that we don't have right now. Because in this situation, it's not like he'd been out in the field eating, and then he comes home and he's like, now I also need to eat some more. It could just be applied to, if I don't have something, I have to have it. We can be gluttonous about wanting, about missing something. Right? Christmas is just a couple months away. You may have your kids, and they may say, I have to have the PlayStation 5. You don't understand. I have to have it. If I don't, I will die, right? And we've been there. You've said it. I've said it. Maybe not about a PlayStation, but about something in our lives. That's what Esau's doing. So what does Esau do? He literally sacrifices his birthright, his inheritance, for not just stew. This isn't just stew. This is what it is. It's lentil stew. Not even any meat in it. Just beans and vegetables and stuff. Now, if you're a vegetarian, you're weird. I'm sorry, you're weird. I'm just kidding. You're not weird. There's nothing wrong with being a vegetarian. But if you're a vegetarian, I'm not a vegetarian. I like some meat. I like some barbecue. If I'm eating some stew, I want some pieces of beef in there or something. He came in for beans and vegetables and sold his birthright for that? For lentil stew? That's like the worst stew that you could have. And he sacrificed everything for that? It's unbelievable to me. But because Esau thought that he had to have it, I have to have it, he was willing to sacrifice greater for lesser. And not just lesser, for lentil stew, of all things. But we're willing to do that. If it meets my need right now, if I can get it right now, then I don't care about the repercussions down the road. Just as long as I get what I want now. How many times have we done that? I can't wait. I can't be patient. You know what? No matter what this means for me later, I've got to have it now. And he's sacrificing greater for lesser. What are you sacrificing later because of your indulgence now? What are you sacrificing later? Maybe you're a person who isn't married yet. And the relationships that you have are not healthy. And you know that they're not even good for you. But you're saying, I just want something. I can't be alone. I got to have something. I know that this person probably isn't the best for me, but you know what? It's better than nothing. And what we're doing is we're sacrificing a better self of us later, the better version of ourselves later, for something lesser now. And we don't think about the type of person that I'm going to be for the person I end up spending the rest of my life with. And we have unhealthy habits now that affect us later down the road that then cause problems for us in our marriage down the road, and we don't even realize it. What we're doing is we're sacrificing something greater later for something lesser now. It's a problem. That's exactly what Esau is doing. So what are you sacrificing? Is it your physical health? Is it your mental health? Is it your relationships? Is it your skills? Is it your abilities? Is it your happiness? When we overindulge in something, we're sacrificing something later. Here's the second thing that gluttony does. It causes us to become selfish, and it causes us to neglect others. In Matthew 22, Jesus tells us to do two things. It's very simple. When somebody asks him, what is the greatest commandment? Jesus tells us to do two things. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. I should say mind, not mind, sorry. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. So here's what gluttony does. Gluttony fights those two commandments. Fights it. It causes us to look away. It causes us to say, you know what, God, you're just simply not enough. You're not enough for me. But another plate of food is. Or another show is, or another car is, or another Apple product is, or another relationship is. You know, God, you're just simply not enough. And because you're not enough, I have to fill myself with all this other stuff that the world tells me I need to fill myself with all this other stuff that looks great. And I'm just going to replace you. Because I don't trust that you are sufficient. I don't trust that you are going to help me. See, it causes us to believe that we need to hoard everything to ourselves instead of being generous to others. See, gluttony is the attitude of, I simply don't have enough. So whatever I do have, I'm not sharing. I'm not giving away. This is mine. It's a dog-eat-dog world. I need to keep this because if I don't and if I lose it, nobody else is going to take care of me. Nobody else is going to look out for me. So whatever I've got, whether it's my money, whether it's my stuff, whether it's my time, whatever I got is mine. I'm keeping it. And now, as long as my needs are met, if I have a little bit extra, okay, sure. But I got to make sure that my bucket is filled first. Now, I don't want you to misinterpret what I'm saying because we do need to take care of ourselves. In order for you to make an impact in somebody else's life, in order for you to make a difference in somebody else's life, you've got to take care of yourself. You have to be healthy. You have to be healthy. You know, I say to my staff all the time, your family comes before what you do here. Every single time. Your family, after God, should be the number one priority in your life. Whatever job you have, don't put your family in front of it. And I say to our staff here, it's like, look, if Nicole calls me and says, hey, Emmett's sick, stay home. Because I care more about your family than I do about your job. That's the attitude that we have to have, amen? We have to protect ourselves. So you've got to make sure that you're healthy. You've got to make sure that you're doing what you need to do. But it's a fine line between making sure that you're healthy and hoarding everything that you have and not being willing to give anything away and being so stingy that we just say, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine. And gluttony causes us to have this attitude of being selfish and then neglecting everybody else and everything else. It's an issue. If you have no room in your life to be generous, then the answer is you're being gluttonous. If you have no generosity in your life, what do you think about your life? Do you give away any money? Do you give away any time? Are you there to help somebody in need? Or when your friend calls, do you go, oh, I don't have time for this every single time? If you do, you're being gluttonous. You're hoarding it all. You're keeping it to yourself. You're being a glutton with your stuff. But over and over and over and over and over again, the Bible says, hey, be generous. Be generous. Give. Give away what you have. Because the more you give, the more God blesses. The more you give, the more God blesses. And that's not a prosperity message. I'm not saying if you give $100, God's going to give you $200. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is, if you give stuff away out of the goodness of your heart because you care about other people and because you realize that God has told you to be generous, then God will bless you in ways that you couldn't imagine. It could be changing your perspective. It could be having more joy in your life. It could be financially. Whatever it is, God provides. Stop hoarding all that you have and start giving away as much as you can. You can never, never, never outgive God. Here's a third thing that gluttony does to us. It sabotages our well-being. Sabotages it. Proverbs 23, verses 20 to 21 says, do not join those who drink too much wine or gorge themselves on meat. For drunkards and gluttons become poor, and drowsiness clothes them in rags. See, the Bible talks a lot about feasts and celebrations. A lot. And there is nothing wrong with those things. I mean, in the Bible, people would enjoy the finest wine. I mean, Jesus' first miracle was turning water into wine at a wedding because they ran out of wine, right? But this is a celebration. People enjoy the finest wines, food, clothes, and they celebrate all that God has given them. We're going to do this just in a month, or a little bit more than a month, for Thanksgiving, where we get together with our family and we have a feast, right? You got turkey, you got mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes, all this stuff. And what do? Every Thanksgiving, we just gorge ourselves on all of this stuff. Guess what? That's not wrong. It's okay to celebrate. It's okay to have a feast. It's okay to enjoy ourselves. But every meal shouldn't be Thanksgiving. Every day shouldn't be Christmas. That can't be the way that we go about our everyday lives. But we can build in celebrations. Every day is not your birthday. But when it is, celebrate. Go have fun. Eat a ton of food. Go to Old Country Buffet and get all the ice cream. Do whatever that you want to do to celebrate. That's a great thing. There's nothing wrong with it. But we have to have boundaries. We've got to have them. See, I love vacations. But my life would be a mess if I were permanently on vacation. One, I would have no money. Just be gone, right? But even when I get to the end of a vacation, I've found myself as an adult, I don't know about as a kid, but as an adult, I'm like, I'm ready. I'm ready for this to be over now. And I don't know if you've ever experienced the same thing, and if not, maybe you've just gone on better vacations than I have. But a lot of times, I'll get to the end of a vacation, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to get back in my routine. I'm ready to go back home. I'm ready to have a normal life. Because vacation is not normal. But it's a necessary time. It's a time to rest. It's a time to enjoy. It's a time to just turn off your brain for a week, 2 weeks, whatever, however long you decide. Nothing wrong with that. But if I were on vacation permanently, I would run out of money, I would be so out of shape, right? And I would be entirely selfish because I would think, oh, people just bring me stuff all the time. Just go to like a restaurant. They're just bringing me food. We would lose sight of reality. You know, it's football season. And I'm going to be honest with you. This is my number one problem when it comes to gluttony. I have no issue when church is over going home and sitting on my butt from 1 p.m. to midnight watching football all day. No issue. I'm not going to ask you guys to raise your hand or girls to raise your hand, but I know I'm not the only one in this room who has that issue, right? It's normal. And back before I was married and before I had kids, that's what I would do every single Sunday. And if something were planned where I couldn't do that, I was just miserable, furious. What do you mean we have a family birthday party? It's football. I'm not going to a family birthday party, right? And if somebody has the audacity to get married on a football day, I think it should be a law that you can only have weddings in the spring. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. But like when we get into that place, our attitude is so off the wall, right? And that was my life before married and before I had kids, and now it's just simply not possible for me. But I know that even at 35, if I wasn't married and if I didn't have kids, that absolutely would be my tendency to want to sit there all day and watch football and never move. And so I would do that with some friends of mine, and we would go to church. I'd still go to church, and I would come home, and we would like get subs or chicken wings or pizza or something for lunch, bring it home, sit there with my friends all day, and then get to nighttime, and we're like, well, now we got to eat something else. I guess we'll order Chinese food, and then you get some Chinese food, and then you sit there and you eat that, and you don't move. And then by the time that football was done, and it's like, okay, I guess I need to go to bed now, you just feel miserable. Like I would feel awful. I have to just roll to bed now because I didn't do anything the entire day. It wasn't good for me. It was literally sabotaging my well-being. And it's so unbelievably easy to do because when it comes down to it, gluttony deceives us into thinking that we are making our life better by giving us what we want now. It deceives us. And that's why it's a deadly sin. Because it sneaks in. We think, well, nothing wrong. I'm not hurting anybody, right? I'm just watching football. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm just eating a little bit more. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm just watching another show, right? I'm not hurting anybody. So surely it's okay. And it tricks us. And then all of a sudden, we find ourselves down the road and we're like, I don't really like who I am. I don't have any motivation. I'm not excited about anything. I just come home and I sit there and I watch this and then my day ends. I wake up and I go to work again and I have no energy. I'm tired all the time. I know it's very easy to be tired all the time, especially the older we get. And if that's you, sometimes we need to suck it up. Sometimes we need to get up. Sometimes we need to be active. Sometimes we need to eat healthier. Sometimes we need to be intentional about the way that we're going about our lives. And it's okay to be tired at times. But if you're always tired, you wake up and you're tired, and then you eat lunch and you're like, oh, I'm tired, I ate lunch. And then it's later in the day, it's like, well, I need my fourth cup of coffee, I'm tired. Then you come home and you eat dinner, and then you're like, oh, I had dinner, I'm tired. All day long, it's a problem. And it's because we're not building healthy boundaries in our lives. Because we're not being intentional about what we're doing. In reality, this overindulgence is hurting us. So then what do we do? What do we do? How did I find myself in this situation where I don't like who I am and I'm overindulging and think, where do I go? What do I do? Here, I want to give you just 3 quick things. I'm going to wrap up with this. Three quick things. I want you to ask yourself this. Number 1, what captures my heart? What excites me? What do I enjoy? What do I like? What fires you up? What keeps you dreaming? What gets you excited at night when you're laying in bed? It's like, oh man, I would love to do this. See, if you're dreaming about the Golden Corral, if you're dreaming about football, if you're dreaming about a video game, if you're dreaming about a show, then you may have a problem. It's a problem. Those things should not be center of our lives. It's okay, they're okay, but they shouldn't dominate our lives. And if all you can think about is something like that, then that's a problem. It's not wrong to enjoy them, but put it in the proper context. And then, once you create those healthy boundaries, then think about what's important to me. What's God telling me? Hey, this is good. Lean into this. And if you're a person like me that likes sports a lot, use it. Use it. I love what Tim, I know he's not here today, he's working, but I love what Tim did. Tim loves softball. Loves it. And because he loves it so much, you know what he did? He turned it into a ministry. And he said, I'm going to create a softball team. And this softball team, we're going to develop relationships with guys. We're going to have fun. We're going to play a game that we enjoy. We're going to play a game that is great and that we can really, really just have a good time. But it's more than that. It's important relationships. It's showing the other teams what it means to be a follower of Jesus because they know that we're a church. And it doesn't mean that we're getting out there preaching a sermon, but it does mean that we're creating healthy relationships with one another. And he turned it into a ministry. Find what excites you and lean into it for Jesus. If you've got an idea, then don't just keep dreaming about it. Do it. Do it. Invest in it. So that's number one. What captures your heart? The second question I want you to ask yourself is this. What consumes my hours? What takes up your time? How do you spend your time? What do you invest yourself into? Because we talk about how busy we are constantly, how we don't have time to help others, let alone spend time with God. Like if sometimes talk to people like, hey, do you ever read your Bible? Do you ever pray? And they say, I don't have time. Where would I fit in this time? I'm doing so much. So much. We say, I don't have time for that. But we have time for 5 to 11 hours of TV a day. But we have time to put in other things that aren't necessarily healthy for us, and our priorities are out of whack. So if you aren't sure if you are having a gluttonous attitude about life, look at how you spend most of your time. Look at what you're doing. If you're just scrolling social media all day, it's a problem. It's a problem. What consumes your hours? Where do you spend your time? And then the last question I want you to ask yourself, what controls my happiness? What impacts me the most? What puts a smile on my face? What makes me upset? What makes you feel better? If the answer to that question is anything other than God, then it's an idol. It's that simple. If anything other than God is the source of your happiness, then it's an idol. Now, it doesn't mean you can't enjoy things, okay? Don't get me wrong. Doesn't mean you can't enjoy things. But there's a difference between joy and happiness. And if the source of your happiness is fickle things that are up and down, up and down, up and down, then guess what? You're going to be up and down, up and down, up and down. What is the source of your happiness? What controls your happiness? If your week is ruined because the Ravens can't keep a 20-point lead, then that's a problem. If your week is ruined because of that, right? Then that's a problem. Now, emotions are great. Nothing wrong with emotions. Nothing wrong. You can react. You can watch a game and get excited and get frustrated and get mad. That's okay. But when it's over, where are you? Is your day ruined? Are you now frustrated with the rest of your family? Now, are you short with your kids because the game didn't go the way that you wanted it to go? Now, are you yelling at your spouse because the game didn't go the way that you wanted it to go? That's a problem. A huge problem. What controls my happiness? Because the answer is this: nothing will satisfy you like Jesus satisfies you. This is the answer. You know, we talk about how I don't need anything in this world but Jesus. That's it. The world can have everything else. When it comes down to it, I don't need it, but I need Jesus. Because Jesus is the only thing that will be consistent, the only thing that will provide, and the only thing that provides actual hope, love, mercy, grace. Nothing else in this world actually does. But don't fool yourselves. I'm going to invite the worship team up as we close. And that thing that I told you to get in your head in the beginning of the sermon, whatever it is that you feel like this is my danger zone, you have to be aware of it. You have to protect yourself. You have to put up the right boundaries, healthy boundaries that say, you know what? If I have these boundaries in place, then I can partake, but it won't dominate. Hey, if I really love dessert, I have to have the right boundaries in place that I don't just keep all this dessert in my home all the time, because I know if I do, what's going to happen? I'm going to eat it all. I know if I don't protect myself, then I'm just going to dive in. So don't put yourself in that situation. Put in the proper roadblocks. Help you. Have accountability partners. Put it in the right perspective, because you know that these things are not going to bring you happiness in the end. It's temporary, and you're sacrificing greater for lesser. You're selling yourself short. It's not healthy. We should all want to be healthy. Amen. So if you have something that you know is just taking up all of your time, if you have something that you know is just like the source of everything that you think about, talk to somebody about it. Don't keep it to yourself. Because when we bring that thing into the light, guess what? It loses its bite. Loses it. And when you talk to your friend or your spouse or whoever, your pastor, when you talk to somebody, you say, I need help managing this. You have somebody to hold you in check, to keep you in check. And then they will follow up with you, keep the right perspective in mind. And it actually gives you hope. And then you say, oh, this isn't insurmountable like it felt like when I just kept it to me. Now all of a sudden I realize there's hope. Amen? So find what it is. Be aware of it. And hold it down. Put Jesus in the center of everything that you do, because he's worth it. Let's stand. Let's sing.
Oh, my words fall short. I've got nothing new. How could I express all my gratitude? I could sing these songs as I often do. Every song must end, and you never do. So I throw up my hands and praise you again and again, 'cause all Oh, come on, my soul. Oh, don't you get shy on me and lift up your song. 'Cause you've got a lion inside of those lungs. Get up and praise the Lord. Oh, come on, my soul. Oh, don't you get shy on me and lift up your song. 'Cause you've got a lion inside of those lungs. Get up and praise the Lord. Oh, come on, my soul. Oh, don't you get shy on me. Lift up your song. 'Cause you got a lion inside of those lungs. Get up and praise the Lord. Praise you again and again. And all that I have is a hallelujah. Hallelujah. And I know it's not much. I'm nothing else fit for a king. Except for a heart singing
Father, we just give you ourselves. We lay ourselves at your feet. All that we are, all that we have, Lord God, none of it is mine. Instead, everything I have is from you. And I want to take what I have to reflect what you've done, to reflect how you've changed my life. I don't want to give myself to things that are not worthy of me. But instead, one thing that is worthy of me is you. Father, you talked about how valuable we are. We are your children. That you've gone above and beyond so that we could have that relationship with you. Your sacrifice reflects our worth. But the things of this world do not. So I pray that we don't sell ourselves short. But instead, I pray that we give ourselves to the creator of every good and perfect gift, the creator of the universe, the person who has gone to the cross for me. Thank you, Father. I pray that we can see that you change everything, that you are the only thing worthwhile. So as we go, God, don't let us be distracted by stuff. Let us be focused on the Savior. I pray this in Jesus' name. Everybody said, amen. As you go today, this is your first time here, make sure you stop by in the back, fill out a Connect card. We'd love to see you back next week.